Hello and welcome back, London town. Thank you very much for everyone who's locked in and locked out with us today. You're through to Step Up with Simply Greg. Once again, Step Up with Simply Greg is a personal development talk show which is all about elevating the mind and inspiring you to make a change one step at a time. So we've got Veritas here with us as well. She was definitely giving us words of wisdom and a lot of inspiration in a journey that had led her to where she is currently at the present moment, from the challenges that she went through of in isolation, you know, and not knowing her identity and being involved with the wrong crowd, to later on failing so far that you realize, you know what, I need to turn this around. And at that point, you did manage to turn everything around and actually face the area where you actually failed. So what we're talking about is transforming your greatest upset into your greatest success. So Veritas, please tell me now, along that journey, there's a lot of challenges that you faced.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that people may not have foreseen.
Yeah.
You know, that you may not have foreseen during that period of time. And there's a lot of other people out there who are probably going through a similar situation. I mean, there's a lot that you said, you know, being able to leave one side to move to another, you know, these type of friends into another. But in that period of time, you was by yourself as well. And you had to address that, even though you had the support of your family and things like that in terms of that relationship dynamic. But yet there's so many other challenges that we all face in that transitional moment that people don't realize. What are some of the things that you had to go through and others may also find themselves going through when you've just been through a difficult failure and you want to transform that into your greatest success?
Embracing my past, because I was also an ex-urban glamour model in the midst of all of this.
Yeah.
So those hip hop chicks you see on magazines, I was that chick. I'd done girl on girl shoots. I'd done naked shoots. So people had seen me naked on the internet. Like I was, people had seen me. It was all over because when I was active in uni, I didn't care. I'm a model. I'm doing what I got to do. You know, I was out there. So people had seen me. So people who know me or didn't know me, you know, even when I was going out to parties, were like, I know you. You're this model. I was just like, rah. Okay. At the time, I was loving the attention for the wrong reasons. Again, acceptance because of rejection I'd embraced as a child.
That's it.
So when I now decided to, you know, switch over, the struggles I faced was, okay, what if I put myself out there? Because I knew I was meant for success. I knew I was meant for greater. I just knew. I didn't know how it would come, what I'll be. I didn't know I'd be a speaker. I didn't know I'd be a coach. I didn't know I'd be an entrepreneur. But it's like I knew something was there. So I was like, oh, what if people were to, those voices, what if people go on the internet, do background checks on you, and they see your pictures, or a certain photo gets leaked by a photographer or stuff like that, because even people in the past who I knew were threatening to put it out there. But eventually I was just like, you know what? I don't care. There's a story behind that. And when I testified, the day before I graduated, I did testify in church about God's goodness of helping me from a dropout to graduating. And from then a light bulb went off in my head. Your story can help people, because people are coming to me when I put out my story and saying, V, you've helped me. I want to go back to uni, but I don't know how to. I feel ashamed because I failed, or I feel ashamed because I'm a single mother. And I'm like, no, you see my story. So I now realize I had to embrace my failures.
That's it.
Embrace my past and say, you know what? Failure is not a person, it's an event.
Wow. And you have to repeat that again.
Failure is not a person, it's an event.
Jeez.
In the school system, they teach us that failure is a person. But that's a lie from the pits of hell. I say, okay, failure is a person. You have to fail your way forward. So I started to embrace my failures that I went through this season. And I'm thankful for this season. If I didn't go through being a glamour model, the inspirational guru wouldn't come to life. You know, my first business, Concrete Versatility Rosa, which was a hair extension brand, was created through a betrayal I embraced during my urban glamour model stages.
Oh, wow.
So that was a blessing. So when I now started to see it as a blessing instead of a curse, and say, you know what, my mess is my message, and this test is a testimony, it's going to help me and help other people. That's when I began to not struggle as much. So it was like, I was like, okay, this is good. It's not as bad as I think it is. And I'm going to help someone with this. So when I started to switch my mindset from, oh my God, what if? I'm just like, bring it to me, because I can handle this. I'm going to help someone with it.
That's it. That's it. So you looked at the bigger picture, which is more important than the smaller obstacles that standing in the way. Wow. Yes,
I had to look at it that way. And when I started to realize how many people I can help, because people were coming to me saying, I want to go back to uni. Thank you for telling your story. That's when I was more like,
And what other things did you also have to go through and overcome, and what did you have to do in that process?
Oh dear, losing friends. I wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to my friends. Like, I proper ride for my friends. So even when I graduated, I did go through a season of, one could call it postgraduate depression or so. I went through that because I started to lose friends and I started to see things differently and I started to feel alone. So the fear of loneliness came back, and I even had to express that to my father and my mother and say, I'm afraid I'm going to be all by myself. Like, when I already made my decision, I want to be a barrister, I want to become an entrepreneur. So I was worried that I'll be by myself and I'll have no one. And that's when I had to seek counsel. So as well as praying, I had to seek counsel of my father, and he was saying to me, that's just a fear. You need to learn how to handle being by yourself. And the acceptance thing that I was struggling with from school, it came back up again. Oh, I'm going to be an outcast. I'm no more fitting in with the crowd. I don't know how I'm going to handle being alone. And that's when my father had to show me that you have to lose the baggage. If you want elevation requires separation. I had to learn that elevation requires separation, and that's okay. And that in order for me to elevate, I have to be around people who have the same mindset as me. So I began to understand what mindset is, having people with the same mindset as me. So don't worry about being lonely. You have to be alone from the baggage so that there will be space, room to receive the right people. So I had to learn that. It took me years though, because I was still feeling like, oh, maybe I should go back into that crowd so that I won't feel lonely. I had to start to embrace being by myself and being in the right environment and understanding the power of environment. I think once I understood the power of environment and alignment, I began to fight that battle of fearing being by myself.
So in order to disconnect, so you've disconnected yourself from the previous environment that you was in. You had to first embrace being by yourself. And then actually changing yourself as an individual so that you now start to attract the right kind of friends and people around you.
I had to be by myself, like read books. So I was introduced to personal development books like No Excuses from Brian Tracy, Goals from Brian Tracy, listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes' audios about fear, rejection. I had to do a lot of that. Listening to Les Brown, it's hard, but it's possible. So I had to start listening to things I would never sit down. Me who likes to sit down and listen to Bashment 24/7. I had to change it from that to listening to these audios.
It's true.
I'm a proper soca chick. Yes. So, I had to start listening to things like that, reading, looking at people, thank God for Instagram, looking at coaches who are making like 10K a month. And I began to be like, wait, she makes how much? How is that possible? Because my mindset was an employee mindset.
That's it.
Of you can only make a certain amount of money. So when I started to put myself in those spaces and my mind started to change, which was best, the fear of loneliness was no more. I was able to now put myself in environments, go to networking events as well, come out of my comfort zone and meet like-minded people. So I had to go through that season of separation, I call it. You have to go through a season of separation before elevation.
That's it.
It's a must.
That's amazing. And thank you very much for sharing that as well, because obviously things like this, our own journeys that we go through really impact and empower other people who might be going through a similar situation, especially when they're not identifying why exactly they're going through certain challenges. Because sometimes when there's discord in life or some form of a challenge, it's only because there's, once again, like I said, things are not being aligned. And it's just because you're going from one thing to another or going through a transition. And if you allow yourself to naturally go through that process, you realize that it was actually for your betterment. Rather than fighting against it as well. But you just have to be strong through the whole process. So how do you stand strong in that period of time?
Through that period of time, I talk to God. I tap into my higher self. So I spend a lot of time talking to God. And even this year, when I finished the bar course as well, because yes, I transformed and became a barrister, but another season of loneliness came. More people, as you elevate, people will fall off and you start to question yourself. It's absolutely normal for that to happen. That you're going to question yourself. That is it me? Why are people leaving me? You know, you're going to have that season. I had that season again for a couple of months where my belief system was being tampered with. And that's when I was like, okay, I really need to go back to my quiet place and spend time in prayer and say to God, you know, help me. This is a very powerful statement you should ask God. God, help me see me the way you see me.
Wow.
Not the way others see me, the way you see me. What is it you know about me that I don't know about myself? Because by you saying that, you're giving control to your higher self to be able to show you who you're meant to be, so that once you begin to understand that, you'll realize that this is just the process to success. The process to success, you're going to have lonely seasons, but it's not a punishment. It's to grow you. It's to make you want to discover your higher self and show up as your higher self. You have to go through that season that may seem dark to build your strong character, because the truth is nothing great comes from comfort. Nothing great ever has come from comfort. As I've been studying legends, it never came from comfort. It came from them being in a season of separation, a season of loneliness, a season of going through something that they didn't think they'll survive, but they happened to come out of it. Yeah.
Wow. And you can see why, obviously, she does what she does, inspiring people just by this as well. I'm just sitting down and taking it all in, you know, because there was a lot that you've accomplished, you know, to even have the adamant mentality that the same area that I failed is the same area that I'm going to tackle.
Yes.
What did you have to change mentally about yourself as well in order to address that? I know obviously you embraced who you was previously in the past, and you know, but what mindset does it take for someone to be that adamant about going ahead and tackling the same area that they failed in?
At first, I didn't even know it was a mindset thing, but I don't know, it was like I wanted to fight. And when I say not fight and hurt people, fight my demons, basically.
Yeah.
And fight myself. At times, every day we're battling with ourselves based on what our mind tells us.
Yeah.
So even when I fail, I notice that I may have a moment, even to this day, when I don't have things going my way.
Yeah.
I have a moment where I'm like, you know what, I'm done. But then there's still something there that's like, no, you can't be. So it's like there's that inner fighting spirit. It's within everyone. There's always that inner fighting spirit in you that is like, you can't, you have to keep going. And I had to tune in more to that voice than the situation.
It's true, because that voice is always behind.
Always.
You know, and it's whether or not you're willing to listen to it.
Yes.
And whether you're willing to embrace it, because otherwise what you do is you drown it out by circumstances around you. And sometimes you even drown it out more because of your fears.
Yes.
Your fears are even speaking louder than that voice of triumph inside of you that's saying, no, you can overcome this.
Yes.
You know, so which voice you decide to listen to is
up to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's within my heart. I was feeling, no, I can't. You know, even during my bar course, I had setbacks. And because I'm going through applying for pupillage and stuff, and I have that moment where I'm sulking for like a whole day. But then eventually I'm just like, you have to get back up.
That's it.
Wipe your tears, get back up. Like, this is a journey. This is what you said you wanted. It's bigger than you. So of course there's going to be things set in your way. It's not a straight line. I had to understand that the process to purpose, the process to success is not a straight line. In our minds, when we first set these goals, you see a straight line.
Straight line,
you
that's
see
it.
the goalpost, but you don't see the bumps on the road. You don't see the pits you'll fall into and have to climb back onto that road. You know, it's happened to the greatest people. It happened it happened to Jesus. It happened to, I read Joseph's story. He was shown in a dream that he was going to be the prime minister of a nation. But he didn't know he was going to go through his own brothers throwing him in a pit of slavery. He didn't know he was going to be falsely accused and incarcerated. But that fighting spirit within him and his faith in God, that's another thing that held me, is what kept him going. Yeah.
And I love what you also mentioned earlier on, that failure is an event, not a person.
Yes.
And what happens is that people take that upon them and think that that is their identity.
Yes.
Rather than realizing it was just an event of what occurred.
Yes.
And it's past.
Yes.
I am the person. I can create anything I want in any situation. So let me create success for myself.
Yes.
You know, which is really powerful.
Yes.
And just to tell us very briefly as well, while we're at it, before we do actually close, what were some of the other things that you also took on board after you made that decision? You know, you went for it mentally. You took on board that spirit of that fighting spirit. You know, you faced a lot of battles, but you went for the thing that you aspired for and you got it later on. What were some of the active steps that you also took along the way?
Along the way, I went and got myself a coach. My went and got myself a mentor. So when I graduated from university, I knew I was into entrepreneurship. I got myself a life coach who taught me spiritual stuff. So that's how I learned my mindset tools. That's how I learned the power of goal setting. And then I also went into business ventures as well. So I went into network marketing. I'd also started to
challenging yourself in many
different places. So even with network marketing, personal development is key. Being in the environment of people who know anything is possible, and along with my faith, aligning it and knowing that I can have anything I desire. Again, environment. I had to be in these environments and see people who are highly successful to know this is more than possible. I'm not conforming. So I had to go through channeling myself into different things and getting a coach and a mentor. It's very important to have a mentor. Have someone who is successful mentor you and teach you what you don't know. It's extremely important. One of the best choices I made.
Because they're teaching you through hindsight as well.
Yeah.
Really and truly why you are where you are.
Yes.
And after having experienced everything that you've experienced and being where you are at the present moment, what's some of the greatest lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share with others to inspire them?
One of the greatest lessons I've learned is embrace your failures. Again, brings me back to failure is an event, not a person, because in school we're taught otherwise. Embrace your failures. It's actually one of the greatest things to happen to you, because you have to fail your way forward. I'm not saying go and intentionally fail and say, but don't be afraid of failure. I really want you to know, please don't be afraid of your failures. Be grateful for it, because avoiding failure is like avoiding success. You're going to fail on your way to success. The greatest people before us, Thomas Edison, 10,000 times. If he had quit during that process, we wouldn't enjoy the luxury of lights. So please embrace your failures.
And that's it. And it's one of the things, when I even came to that understanding and revelation, one of the things I normally say that I also posted out as well was, don't be so focused on what you think success looks like.
Yes.
That you don't know what failure has to do with it.
Yes.
Because failure is all a part of it as well in the process.
Yes.
Because like you said, you fell forward and you develop yourself and you become stronger, bigger, wiser, smarter.
Absolutely.
During that process of time.
Absolutely. I had to fail to get here. The inspirational guru had to go through failures to become the inspirational guru.
Yeah.
I became the inspirational guru
because
through my failures.
Yeah.
So embrace it.
That's amazing. Now, Veritas, obviously, for those who've listened to you and, they're amazed by your story and what you're doing, you said, obviously, you've got a lot that you've got going on. Yeah. I was wondering earlier on where you find the time to even breathe, but it's like...
Good time management.
But... it's amazing in itself because, you've walked the walk in order to talk the talk, and
Absolutely.
Now sharing obviously what your journey was, because, by sharing our stories as well, it helps to impact someone else in a different way that we may not also know as well.
Yes.
But what we're going to do after the break, Veritas is going to tell us more about the steps that she took that brought her to this point of liberation where she is able to turn her biggest or greatest upset into her greatest success. So make sure you don't touch that dial. See you on the other side of the ad.